That's the one thing I fear. If we're going to take a risk on a student, I'd like to know that there's some sort of compelling argument to do so.
It's a give and take, 15 minutes that can decide a student's future.
But I don't think we should deny her.
At Grinnell, a top liberal arts college in Iowa, 2 admissions officers read an application. Their comments are shared.
Wait list in order, but I could even go with a deny.
Dishes. Were you reading this one at 3 a.m.?
Then the application is parsed. Grades and scores are scrutinized.
His SAT 2 in history was a 750, so that doesn't make sense if you're getting C's.
Essays evaluated.
His essay really kind of spoke to his willingness to step out and try new things.
Comparisons made.
She's far and away the lowest in the group, which probably ends it for her.
Extracurriculars weighed.
Why should we treat a musician differently from the way we treat an athlete?
And finally, a vote.
Who would be in favor of a wait list, do you think? Okay, and Quentin, you're still sticking to your deny, huh?
I stick to it.
Well, sorry, you're outvoted.
Seth Allen is Grinnell's Dean of Admission and Financial Aid.
I would love to say that the admission process is a very straightforward process where every student is considered on their own merits. But that simply isn't true. The process is highly subjective.
Which means the pros and cons of a candidate are sometimes debated.
That's a great example of an essay. I mean, it tells us a lot about the student.
Well, but I guess I would take a contrarian perspective. He's talking about how much he's changed, but do we really see that in the evidence of his application?
For me, the issue is more of the transcript coupled with the light extracurricular involvement.
Mm-hmm. He's at a school and in an area where we'd probably like to have some more kids.
People can be very persuasive. If someone provides a rationale that you hadn't thought of, they raise issues that you hadn't really considered, your mind can change.
Who would be in favor of admitting?
Still.
1, Tina, okay. Wait list? Okay.
It's little things in the process that please us, surprise us, uncover something that we think, wow, this is someone unusual that we'd like to include in the class.
Who would vote to admit? Okay, so we'll call her an admit then.
All right, we're on page 61. She's got 5s in 4 APs.
We divide our applicant pool of circa 8,000 candidates into 30+ geographic regions, and we pair 2 readers to each region.
With Caitlin on her being an inside-the-box kind of gal.
Inside the box.
Inside the box. How many would like to admit? Waitlist. Prior to the conversations we have here as a committee, the group has been significantly reduced to a really, really accomplished group.
He's a top tester.
He's got all A's.
4 varsity sports.
The first chair trumpet in the orchestra.
Is he ready for this? 6.4 GPA on a 4 scale.
Did he get all those 5s without AP courses?
Yep.
Oof. But we can't take them all, and so about 1,000 candidates are brought to be heard by the whole committee.
And the process of making those decisions is agonizing.
I'm questioning the edge here, however, in all her excellence. How many would like to admit? Okay, she goes to the wait list.
We're fully aware of the fact that the process is, I don't want to say flawed, but is making minute distinctions among extraordinarily talented kids. There are times, honestly, where I'm not sure why I put my hand up or failed to put my hand up. I'm kind of going with my gut here.
The night before her AP chemistry exam, she learned her father had an affair with a 23-year-old prostitute.
How many would like to admit?
One parent is a business exec VP with a master's. Both went to Harvard. He's got 3 SIBs at Harvard in classes 09, 11, and 15.
His family financial situation took a huge hit, and they lost their family store and all other assets.
When a student is particularly poor and are achieving an exceptionally high level, that will be a plus factor for that student.
Dad's alcoholism consuming the family. This is a quote from one of his essays. The alcohol-consuming poor Muslim family down the street with whom no sane member of society would want to interact.
How many would like to admit?
I am cognizant of some lives being changed, literally. On the other hand, yeah, I do feel badly. The months of February and March are simply no fun.
GPA and a list of activities are just a few things colleges are looking at when students apply. Now you can add social media to that list. Colleges across the country are paying more attention to how students use those accounts. Valley News Team's Giovanna Simic spoke with the local high school students about the importance of proper social media use.
Ask any high school student and they will tell you, social media is a big part of their lives.
I got Twitter, Snapchat, Facebook, Instagram, pretty much everything.
I use Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook, Twitter, pretty much all the basics.
And they spend a lot of time on them.
All the time, between classes, sometimes in my class.
But all that time on social media could hurt your chances of getting into college. 40% of admissions officers say they look at an applicant's social media account to learn more about them, something most students don't think about.
I didn't really know that at all. I kind of figured that, but yeah, that's higher than I thought it would be.
According to a Kaplan Test Prep survey, learning about an applicant's interests and looking into inappropriate or illegal behavior are reasons why colleges look at social media accounts.
If they see something that they don't think is appropriate or safe, they're probably not going to accept you to college.
Be careful with what you post. If you don't want people to see it, I wouldn't put it out there. If it's not something you would want to show your parents, I wouldn't post it.
In Fargo, Giovanna Simic, Valley News Live.
Colleges. You're about to meet two ambitious high school students who we've been following for months, drowning in coursework and test prep in the mad dash towards college. But just this week, 85 top schools, including the entire Ivy League, signing on to try to tone down the pressure with potentially game-changing proposals. So what does it mean for kids with big college dreams?
It's an early weekend morning, and while most kids are sleeping in, Chris Karpovich is cramming.
Mom, I'm not taking an umbrella.
There's just moments to go before he takes the SAT, and tensions are running high.
You just dropped me here.
Can you not jump out of the car?
Mom, literally, it's fine. I'll go walk. You don't have to. Mom. Bye, Mom.
He's been very stressed out, so he has a cold, and it's raining. A lot of us go, oh, high school, that was when I had all that fun. That was when I did all those things. I hung out with my friends. He really doesn't have time to do any of that.
But while Chris and millions of stressed out students are applying for the class of 2020, hell-bent on finding the fabled holy grail of that perfect application, a sea change is underway that threatens to revamp the very system on which admissions are based.
In our day and age, young people are too focused on achievement. And we need to send a more balanced set of messages.
Richard Weisbord of Harvard and his team publishing a new report this week called Turning the Tide, lambasting a student body obsessed with personal success over the common good, calling for sweeping recommendations to what some see as a broken college admission system.
Everybody knows that the system's irrational, that the system's out of whack.
Parents are painfully aware of it, too.
Do you feel like college admissions just chokes all of the joy out of childhood?
Yes, I say, it needs to stop. Something needs to give. I can't. Why not? Because this is what they are looking for.
Chris is a senior at Rye High School, just north of New York City. Ambitious students and a rigorous curriculum, making it one of the best public schools in the nation.
This is AP Scholar, National Honor Society. This is the Youth in Philanthropy Award.
On paper, he checks off the many boxes prestigious universities say they scout for. He has near-perfect grades. He's captain of the cross-country and debate teams and spends countless hours volunteering at Bread of Life, his parents' food pantry, even creating a chapter at his own school.
How much sleep do you get a night?
5 hours, maybe.
He's moody. He doesn't sleep. You see fatigue. You shouldn't see that on a teenager.
But you do. On Chris and countless others, years of sacrifice, huge chunks of his childhood, he says, all in the hopes of getting into his dream school, Harvard, where both his parents went.
What happens if you don't get into Harvard?
And then I looked my other choices. Hopefully it doesn't come to that.
But with competition at an all-time high, it very well might. Harvard University is ground zero for this reform movement, pushing to turn down the heat on the pressure cooker.
How did the college process become so stressful?
I mean, middle and upper class communities, they became very focused on a small number of colleges. And parents start signaling each other that these are the colleges that are most important to get your kids into.
The recommendations, pragmatic yet groundbreaking, emphasizing quality over quantity, encouraging fewer extracurricular activities, fewer AP courses, and even, in some cases, making the SAT optional.
So this is the big moment.
Yep.
But for Chris, as he's checking for his SAT results, it's far from optional. His chances of getting in, he thinks, along with his future, hangs in the balance.
Are you nervous? My hands are going to clammy.
And the site's down, so.
Oh my gosh, the site crashed.
So many kids are checking them right now that the site's actually down.
Do you ever try to tell him, honey, there's more to life than Harvard?
I want him to go to the best school for him, but he insists that he has worked very hard. Out of his mouth, I have sacrificed so much. I have to get into the best school possible.
Come on, Doodle. Across town, the new recommendations could help students like Sorka McCrowan, a junior at Rye High, who won't be applying until next year.
Come on, Katie.
Behind that smile, a sadness, and a story that before may not have counted so heavily in the admissions process.
I was 11 years old when my mom died, so I had to become an adult when I was still in elementary school.
She lost her mom, an architect and professor at Columbia, to meningitis. Her father forced to work multiple jobs to support 4 kids. Sorka stepping up to help care for her brother, Connor, who has autism.
People didn't know how to really interact with him, but we just love him all the same. This is me, Seamus, Connor, and I.
She finds comfort in photographs and memories.
This is my favorite photo of my mom. There's this one. People have told me when I showed them the photo that they say I look like my mom. You do look like her.
Sorka founded a meningitis awareness club, a final promise to her mother to help others.
I wanted to make sure that nobody in my community had to go through what I go through. So how was meningitis diagnosed?
But Weisbord argues it's not just meaningful work in school, but it's service like Sorka's provided at home in a time of need, which should count as community service.
A lot of family contributions, low-income kids especially, often their contributions don't count in the college admissions process.
A month later, Chris is busy putting the finishing touches on his Harvard application, adding his near-perfect SAT scores.
I hope colleges will see that I'm not just a bunch of numbers.
There's nothing left to do but wait. The entire Ivy League and more than 50 colleges have endorsed the recommendations. Though there's no surefire way to ensure enforcement, MIT is already putting them to work.
We added a question. How have you improved the lives of others?
So it's all happening right here.
It's all happening right here, yeah.
I feel the heat coming off the door right now. And how carefully do you pore over all of the admissions?
We look at everything that comes in on every application. We look at every application more than once. I was amazed at how thorough we really are.
Back in New York, there's only 4 days to go until the Harvard decision.
Your mom quoted you as saying, you sacrificed so much.
I've tried my hardest to sort of do the best that I can.
They tell you this is your future. That's the message he hears.
It's not the decision they'd hoped for. Chris is deferred. He'll have to wait until at least March for Harvard's final decision.
Yeah, it wasn't the best outcome.
His disappointment, a study in understatement.
Do you feel like you haven't accomplished enough for someone to accept you? But in the end, I think that it gives me an opportunity to look at a lot of other schools.
Trying to keep things in perspective, some advice from his principal to help him absorb the blow.
What's the 36-hour pout rule? If they are deferred or denied, we say 36 hours, you pout, you feel bad for yourself, and you're going to start working, and we're going to find another first choice.
Chris is doing just that as he continues applying to 16 additional schools.
There's Princeton, MIT, Yale, Cornell, UPenn, Carnegie Mellon, Johns Hopkins, Stanford, University of Michigan, University of Washington, Brown, Dartmouth, Northwestern.
A dream deferred, perhaps, for Chris. But it could be different next year for Sorka. Her hours of personal sacrifice may just boost her application, which in years past may not have counted as much.
Being here makes me think about my mom.
As she walks the campus where her mother once taught, she hopes her application may capture the fuller picture of who she is and why it counts.
I'm really excited for college, and it's like a chance to start over, and excited